Hey everybody, Michigan here with another video for you. This time I'm going to be ranking every tier 10 vehicle in regards to competitive play. Now I should state beforehand, if you're in class, that this list in no way undermines our meta list that we have for the clan. This is my own personal opinion for me as a caller and does not take into account other callers' opinions. So we're going to start off by banging out the lights and the artillery. Then we're going to move into mediums, heavies, and then we're going to finish off TDs. This is going to be a bit of a longer video. However, I'm going to try and bang through these 77 different vehicles as quickly as I can. So let's start off really quick. You know what, before we start that, gold standard is vehicles that we can bring on pretty much any map. Meta is vehicles that work on most. You know, if you've got a campy map, you know, those tanks might not work on an open one, and if you got an open map, those vehicles might not work on a campy one, but for the most part, they're used. Situational is vehicles that are called for specifically because they play a certain role in the battle. Last resort is going to be vehicles that can play a similar role as the meta or the gold standard vehicles, or even situational vehicles, but are not ideal. And do not bring are vehicles that you should not be loading up pretty much ever because they don't serve any benefit. So let's start off really quick. The WZ-132-1, the Chinese tier 10 light tank, immediately going in the do not bring. This vehicle does not have any benefits over any of the other light tanks. If you are absolutely strapped for a light tank and this is all you have, you've got different problems. EBR, gold standard. This vehicle works even on some city maps. We bring it on Ruinberg quite often and it does amazingly well. Obviously super fast and just a great tank. AMX 13105, last resort. This vehicle can replace some of the other passive light tanks that you'll see coming up here, but really is not ideal. It does have a nice 3-round autoloader though, which can be beneficial, but other than that, it's just not quick enough, and it doesn't have the same camo value as some of the other vehicles. Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. This thing needs no introduction. It's terrible. Please do not bring it. Manticore, situational. This is called for occasionally, very rarely. However, it is called for, and it is not a last resort vehicle. Fantastic camo rating, terrible gun, but it's a great passive spotter for some maps like Karelia when we're camping on the north. T100, again, situational. This vehicle has to be called for. A lot of the times, one of these will be used, often the T100 if you're intending on dueling the enemy light tank. But in terms of lights, most of the time, pretty much all the time, it's going to be the EBR if you're bringing a light. That finishes the lights off. Pretty straightforward. Oh, no, we have one more. Sheridan. Do not bring this vehicle either. It's terrible. It's clunky. The gun is completely unreliable. If you're going to bring the tank without the derp gun and you're going to put the 105 on it, you might as well be playing a T100. That's it for light tanks. Let's move on to Arty. Batchat. Do not bring. When we're bringing Arty in competitive play, we're trying to wear down the opponents, not necessarily get kills, because those low health tanks are going to back off. We need to soften them for our heavy push. This tank is great at taking out one-shot vehicles, super accurate, 3-round autoloader, but it does not have the alpha it needs. T92, last resort vehicle, will often be bringing other artillery. However, the T92 does have great splash, great damage, however the accuracy really sets it back. The same is going to go with the GWE100 for the same reason. The Conqueror GC. This is we're going to put it in situational because it really does need to be called for. However, and we do not bring Arty on every map. This tank has this Arty has a great gun arc, hits pretty hard. However, it does suffer from a high shell arc, which, while it's a double-edged sword, you know, it can hit behind buildings and rocks and whatnot. It takes a long time for the shell to get there. 261, also situational. These are the two main Artys that we bring. The 261, while it has lower damage, like the Batchat down here in the do not bring section, it fires very quickly, and it has great accuracy, but does a lot more damage than the Batchat. I think it has a 24-second reload. The thing that this tank struggles with is the fact that it seems to run out of ammunition. That's it for Arty. Let's move into mediums. Now, there's going to be quite a lot of them here, and I'm going to try and rapid fire these as much as possible. Alright, the TVP 5051, Last Resort Vehicle. It has a great burst, however, it does not have the hit points at 1800 to really take any hits. And while it does have good DPM, in fact the best DPM for an autoloader, the armor and that reload time is going to hurt it quite a bit. It cannot sit over the ridgeline and fire down. Batshat, Last Resort. We have called for these every once in a blue moon, but again, the reload is going to cause it problems. The health, the armor, and the amount of time it takes to unload that clip, coupled with the fact that it can't really fire heat because of its accuracy issues. It bounces a lot. I'm going to stick it in the Last Resort section. UDES 1516. We have one member, I'm looking at you, Hawks, if you're watching this, who loves to bring this vehicle. It is an okay vehicle in the right hands. Hawks is fantastic at it. In fact, there's a video on the channel that with him playing it and doing about 6,000 damage and being a team player. However, for the most part, this is a solo vehicle and it runs by itself. Object 907, Meta. This tank has great side armor. It's a good dueler. It's pretty much the brother of the 140. It has better armor, lower camo, and less gun depression, but nonetheless, it's still a fantastic vehicle when you're trying to take a medium. Object 140, same, I believe that's an Object 140. Yep. I'm trying to recognize all these vehicles here. Great camo values. It's a little bit lower than the 907. It's got the same turret armor. It doesn't have as good of a hull armor, especially from the side. The 907 has that V-shaped hull, which means it can over-angle and even sort of side-scrape. The 140 cannot do that. But the 140 does have better damage per minute and better camo values. So it's a trade-off. Both of these vehicles are acceptable. CS63, situational. Let's move it over here. Fast vehicle. The turret is not that reliable, and it can get way ahead of its teammates if you're not careful. If you're not using that speed mode initially, you really shouldn't be bringing it, and therefore it's situational. Where you could take a 140, you don't want to take a CS. It's not the same vehicle. The CS is great for taking the hill on Corellia if we want to go back to that map. And maybe taking some other forward positions, rushing across the river on mines, for example, which you're not going to do in a 140 or a 907. But other than that, that vehicle is situational. I cannot remember. This is the Clan Wars reward vehicle from Clan Wars that you could bid on or pick up. It has the 4-round autoloader. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. Somebody please leave a comment as to what this vehicle is. Otherwise, I can just check on TanksGG here. Let's take... Well, I find this. Mediums. This is tier 9. No wonder. The Caro 45T. Do not bring this vehicle either. It has no place in Clan Wars. It has a 4-second inner clip. And while it has okay turn armor, there's massive weak points on the front. This thing, we don't need to talk about that one anymore. The same goes for the AMX-30B. It has fantastic DPM, but low health, heat, 390 alpha, it can't brawl. A lot of what you're going to see here from these gold standard tanks, and even situational ones, is they can do multiple roles. These tanks are going to suffer at all of them. The Object 430U, situational. We do bring this vehicle occasionally when we need heavier mediums to absorb their mediums. That way we have more health, more armor, and more alpha that we can push with. We love to stick these things on mines on the little peninsula. The 121, Last Resort. It's like a 430U kind of crossed with a 907 and a 140. It just isn't as good as either of them. The stats are just slightly worse. This used to be a very major meta vehicle. Unfortunately, it's fallen out of favor there. I don't remember what this vehicle is. You know what? That's a 121B. Yep, 121B. Situational. It's pretty much a 430U. You can pick these things up for 15,000 bonds in the pawn shop. It's okay. I don't recommend buying it. We don't bring them that often, but again, situational if we need heavy mediums. The M60, or the Patton, I can't tell which one. They all look the same. Don't bring it. It's not very good. The cupola on the top is disgusting. The tank's kind of slow, and it's not worth bringing. STB-1. I'm actually putting this in meta here. We're going to put it in meta. Fantastic gun depression. Got the hydro pneumatic suspension. And you know what? We're going to move this thing. No, we'll keep it in meta. I think that's good, because all the mediums are meta. They're not really gold standard. Fast vehicle, 360 alpha, great gun depression, good turret armor. That's all you need to know about it. Fantastic vehicle. Progetto. This is a tough one. We'll put it in last resort. It does have a nice autoloader, unlike some of these vehicles down here that actually has a 2-second inner clip, unlike the Caro here. So it can work. We have one member from class 4, and all he has is a 268, not 268, a T124 or a Progetto, and he's been managing to make the Progetto work. So last resort, we'll put it, just for you. T110E5, sorry, not T110E5, WZ1115A, situational. It's like a 277, but just worse. Don't bring it, it's not worth it. It does have better gun depression, but you have to consider what fast heavies are doing, and they're pushing straight in. You're getting right over the top, you're face-to-face with the enemy. You're inches away from them. You don't need gun depression. If you need gun depression, you're taking another vehicle, like a Chieftain or an Escalade. M60, for all the same reasons as the T110E5. Don't take it. Big cupola, only hits for 390, slow, no armor, not worth it. VZ55. Now, a lot of people want me to stick this in meta. However, I'm going to put it in situational. Because you cannot, these vehicles are reliant on having teammates with single shotguns behind them to clean up their mess, or vice versa. While it does have a fantastic 2-round autoloader, it does have a 20-second reload, which means it can easily get flanked and pushed, especially if it's on low health. Mouse. Situational. This vehicle, everybody knows the Mouse. Tons of health, great for hard defense here. The E100, we're going to put it in situational because I see a lot of people making it work, especially with that 128. It's basically a Mouse, however, the issues, and it does have better side armor than the Mouse, the issues come with the flat turret right here. It's easily penned by heat if you're not paying attention and you're not angling. AMX M454, I'm putting this in gold standard. This vehicle works everywhere. You can run it as a super heavy, it's quick, it's got a massive gun that hits for 560, and it rams like there's no tomorrow. It's a fantastic counter for the 279E, and because of its height, it can shoot down onto that front plate. Despite the nerf, it's still a fantastic vehicle. I would have put it one above the EBR before this. I personally love this vehicle. AMX 50B. Do not bring this vehicle, in my opinion. While it's very quick, it has a 4-round autoloader, there are so many other vehicles I'd rather bring. On top of the fact that it has a 30-second reload. It cannot take punishment. And the fact that it has a 2.5-second inner clip reload means it really has to sit on that ridge line for 4.5 seconds against other gun depression vehicles who will make mincemeat of this tank. And it doesn't have that much health either, I believe. 2100, 2200 hit points. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Panzer 7, or this may be the VK. It's hard to tell here. That's not what I wanted. Where'd it go? There it is. Nope. We're going to say that this is the VK72. This vehicle is situational. It's a great side scraper. It does have that little triangle there, but it's not nearly as bad as an upcoming vehicle in the Panzer 7. It does hit for 750. You know what? This is the, because of that long gun, I can tell it has the 128. This is the Panzer 7. Do not take the Panzer 7. This triangle is weak. And it only hits for 560. It is not a good vehicle. You can't side scrape with it. Because of that, they'll just shoot you right there. If you go out the other way, they're going to get your lower plate, and you can't trade. So let's get the VK72 out of the way. Situational. You can see it's got that short barrel. This vehicle suffers from horrendous shell velocity. It's like 630 meters per second, I believe. If I can remember that. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. It can trade. This triangle is not nearly as bad. If you look on TanksGG, you'll see This is only green on the top little rectangle portion of that triangle there. The other part is red and orange. So you will bounce shots there. People will try and shoot you there too. E50M, Last Resort. A lot of people like this vehicle. I just find it to be a little underwhelming. It can't quite keep up with its medium counterpart sometimes. I don't know if that's the ground resistances, and it only hits for 390. You know, the gun depression's okay. Turret isn't fantastic. You can see there's some flat sections of it. I don't like it. However, it can be used in place. Leopard 1, Last Resort. This is going to be a bit... some people are going to argue with me on this one. The Leopard 1 cannot dogfight anybody. It can't. It only has 1,800 hit points. It has 0 armor. People will HE it to death. And while the rate of fire is good, and the accuracy is good, that's not enough to make up for it. We do occasionally, very rarely, bring this vehicle to snipe and try and help EBRs. But when the fight closes in, the Leopard's not going to survive. 113, Last Resort. Oh, we gotta put it down here. This tank used to be a huge meta vehicle along with the 121. It's super quick. It only hits for 440. It's kind of a slightly heavier version of the 430U. The armor isn't that great. There's nothing special about it. It's a big flat plate. You know, not great gun depression. It can replace 277s or IS-7s if we absolutely need it to. The Rinocerante, or Rinocerante, however you pronounce it. Terrible vehicle. The 3-round autoloader does nothing for the tank. No armor. It's not a good vehicle. Type 5 Heavy. Don't bring it. This thing is a credit and XP pinata. It cannot take hits very well. While the gun is okay, it's way too big to be playing anywhere, and the armor profile is not good enough. The Type 5 sides are horrendous, and it constantly gets shot by lower tiered vehicles if they can get its side, on top of the fact that if an IS-7 gets alongside it, it can't shoot it. This thing, it just doesn't belong in competitive play. I have to zoom out a little bit. Alright, let's zoom out. We actually got to zoom out a little more. Alright, there we go. 60 TP, Last Resort in terms of super heavies. I don't like this vehicle. I used to have it in my meta, actually. However, it just has seemed to not be the greatest vehicle anymore. The 750 Alpha is nice. The heat pen struggles. 317 heat is not enough to go through most vehicles. And while it is low profile, the armor isn't that great. Right under the gun, there's a pretty big weak point, so you really got to hide that. There's also weak points on the top. Kranvagn, Last Resort. We do call for this occasionally, only in one scenario where I bring 2 of them. And that would be the El Haluf camp on the north. And that's just so that you can have an autoloader there with good gun depression. Other than that, this tank's dispersion, its reverse speed, it's been nerfed quite a bit. I wish I could put it in situational, but I really can't. It's not called enough. The... whatever this thing is called. Let's see. Where is it? It's like a Panzer 7, but actually even worse. The FV215. Terrible vehicle. No side armor. It's got an S-Conk gun, huge cupola on the top, really slow, bad lower plate. Don't ever bring... if there's any vehicle you're going to not ready up here, it's going to be this thing. It's awful. The Chieftain. Gold standard. This vehicle is fantastic, and it looks like I accidentally have 2 of them in. So we're just going to leave 1 at the bottom. Shouldn't be the case. I actually may have put the wrong Chieftain in. It's alright. This vehicle has great gun depression, great armor, great speed. It's all around. The DPM is fantastic, accuracy. There's really no downside to this vehicle. And while it can struggle against super heavies on super heavy maps, as long as you can get it hold down and keep that gun firing, you're going to be just fine. S-Conk, situational. This vehicle can mount a Ridgeline. It has better DPM, and arguably it has somewhat better turret armor than the Chieftain as well. It's an acceptable replacement, and therefore I'm putting it as situational. However, when it comes to an assault map, the Chieftain is always going to be preferred. The S-Conk doesn't have the hull armor to really be dealing with an assault, and it's not quick enough. So eventually you're going to have to come out from behind that rock, or off that ridge, and then you're going to feel it. M5Y. Don't bring it. This vehicle, I was horribly wrong about. I thought it would replace the Chieftain. This thing is like a giant string bean perched on top of a tank chassis. And string beans are very long, and when you push one end down, the turret, the other end comes up. And that means when you're looking down, your top of your turret swings wildly everywhere. And it's very obnoxious because people can shoot it over a ridgeline, and the side armor is awful. This tank is fantastic when you're at a ridgeline and you're directly facing an enemy and they're not pushing you. Otherwise, it's awful. Don't bring it. T-57 Heavy, Last Resort. Great 4-round autoloader, 2-second inner clip, so 1,600 damage in 4 seconds? 6 seconds. It's kind of slow. It doesn't have great armor, but it's an acceptable replacement for some other vehicles if you absolutely have to. We have here T-110E5. Same reason. Fantastic DPM. However, giant cupola on the top. Doesn't have the greatest alpha. I believe it's 400. And it just can't trade very well. There's a lot of better options, such as the Chief. Remember, that's what a lot of this is. There are better options. Now we're moving on to TDs. T-110E4. Last Resort. The turret is not that great. It's a bit misleading as to how the vehicle looks. It looks super well armored. It isn't. This whole turret is a weak point, especially that cupola. Too easy to pen. And actually, it looks like that vehicle may have snuck out because we're not in TDs yet. We'll leave it in there anyway. Object 260. Gold Standard. Super fast vehicle. Great pike noise. Hits for 440 alpha, which is a little bit too low. However, it has a great rate of fire. Great DPM. This is a great vehicle. It actually looks like a medium snuck in here too. T-22 Medium. Last Resort. I think that the other two mediums we have up here are better. The T-22 is okay, and it does have very interesting armor. It's kind of like a 907, but the 907 has better statistics when it comes to gun handling and ammunition in general. Let's hop into... Are we on TDs now? We actually have one more medium here, I didn't. The K91. Where do I put this? We're going to put it in Last Resort just because of its DPM. This has the highest DPM, I believe, for a medium at tier 10. However, it doesn't have any gun depression, and it doesn't have any armor. It can be used to snipe, but... And you could theoretically brawl with it because of the raw DPM, but otherwise, I wouldn't bring it. Alright, Object 705A. Situational. I think it's a good side scraper. The 650 alpha really helps it out when it's trading, and that turret is impenetrable. Alright, 277. Situational. I don't like the vehicle this much. The only reason I'm putting it in Last Resort, or I'm not putting it there, is because it does function. It's not... It could be replaced. However, we do use it enough, and we bring enough of them, that it is worth calling it a situational vehicle. I believe that the IS-7 can do much better. And that's actually our next vehicle we're going to do here. I'm putting the IS-7 in Gold Standard. I think this vehicle is fantastic, and I'm doing a video that actually is pre-recorded of my equipment load on the IS-7 and why I like this tank so much. The amount of hit points you can get on it, the decent rate of fire, and a incredible blazing top speed at 70 kilometers an hour. While it doesn't hit that all the time, it does hit 60, 62, 63 quite often. Makes it a great rammer. It has good armor. The gun depression isn't great, but again, you're closing in, and there's no better brawler than the IS-7. Except for the 279E, which I'm putting in Gold Standard as well. This vehicle does fantastic. It is... If you've ever fought one of these things, you know how frustrating it is to face. This tank has amazing DPM, coupled with no lower plate and great frontal armor. It's incredibly hard to deal with. The ST2, Last Resort. It's like an IS-4, but it has a double barrel. It's kind of slow. I wouldn't bring it. The Object 780. It fills a gap that isn't there. If you are interested more on my thoughts about the 780, you can watch my video, is the 780 a competitive vehicle? You can check that out for competitive play. You can watch that video. It's quite a ways back. IS-4. It's like an ST2 with a single shot. It's not great. What vehicle is this? I believe that's a duplicate 907. Let's get that one down here. Alright, on to TDs. The Death Star. Last resort. You know what? We're putting it in do not bring. It has been called for every now and then, but the incredible reload time, that being on the negative side of incredible, just doesn't make it worth it. It's too much of a gamble when you're playing. Especially you're gambling on just being able to hit the vehicle, and from there on, you don't actually know if you're going to pen it. And if you don't pen it, you're not going to do that much damage. Not worth it. Grill. Don't bring it. No armor, great accuracy, can't duel. JP E100. Last resort. We bring it every now... you know what? We're going to put it in situational, because it actually is used on super heavy maps. We do bring a couple of them, and they do quite well. I watched LT get about 6,000 damage last time he brought one. Minotauro. Meta. I'm not putting in a gold standard because it is slow. This tank has a fantastic autoloader that has 5 shells that hit for 560 each with an 8-second inner clip. That means while it's firing its clip, it has over 5,000 DPM. It's not that slow. It does go 35 kilometers an hour, but cannot keep up with the vehicles above. It has good gun oppression, great armor, and a decent amount of hit points. So I'm putting it in meta. We're on to TDs, by the way, if you haven't noticed. The SP2. Please don't bring this thing. It's way too big, it's way too slow, and it's not a good vehicle. I hate it. The Object 268. I'm putting it in situational. I have to zoom out even more. I bring this vehicle every now and then. This tank has the best DPM. It doesn't have the best DPM for TDs, but I got mine to 3,700 DPM. It has fantastic heat pen. Second best in the game, or tied for second best, with 395. Shell velocity isn't bad at about 1,000 or 950. And it hits for 750 alpha. I have some replays with me doing 10,000 damage in advances with this vehicle, just constantly firing. A 13 or 12.5 second reload with 750 alpha is massive. And, unlike most Russian vehicles, I have this thing down to a .28 accuracy, and I haven't min-maxed it either. So there's definitely a place for it. The WZ-113GFT. Garbage. Sturv. Situational. We do bring this occasionally. Great DPM, can't get spotted. It can get overmatched in its sides easily. Not worth it on a lot of maps. However, if you can keep tanks in front of it and keep that gun firing, you can really do a lot of damage. It also doesn't have great alpha, so it can't trade against poking vehicles. It needs to have an open field in front of it. T110E3. Situational. Fantastic super heavy. One of the best. Great armor, 750 alpha, decent gun. It's very slow, but when you're bringing it, you're not going anywhere quickly anyway. 4005, aka the blank barn. I don't know how much I can swear on YouTube before they don't like it, so we all know what it is. It's like, if you thought the Death Star was bad, this thing is even worse. Don't bring it. Badger. This is a tougher one. I'm going to put this in last resort. We do bring this, you know what? I call for this vehicle enough that we will put it on here. We play this vehicle on Mines and Karelia. Not Karelia. Mines and Prokhorovka. So it is used enough. Great DPM, decent armor, good alpha, okay camo. It's good when you're able to get a lane in front of it, like the Sturv, and keep it firing. It's on a 750 alpha, so it really doesn't like trading on corners. The Foch B, and actually the Foch 155, I'm coupling these together. Don't bring them. Bad reload times. The Foch B takes way too long to reload. It's like 57, 60 seconds, sometimes even longer. Doesn't have the greatest armor. It's quick, but it can't keep up with the team, or it can't run with the team because of that. It'll get its clip out, and then it's just stuck, and it can't cover its teammate. Version 4. I gotta go. There we go. Version 4. Situational. This tank used to be gold standard, it dropped to meta, and now it's down to situational. It's okay, it's great for leading a push. It has fantastic armor, great rammer, good 650 alpha. However, it doesn't have a turret, and that's not something that we like bringing, or the meta is currently for competitive play in World of Tanks, because it can't really support as easily. If tanks get behind it, it's going to have a difficult time getting them off of there. The Object 268 version 5, another vehicle that I was horribly wrong about. Don't bring this vehicle. It hits for 750 alpha, and it's kind of a heavy, but it has no armor anywhere. So it can't trade on corners. It's just not a good vehicle for competitive play. So let's zoom back in. Remember, these two are duplicates. We have an extra 140 and an extra Chieftain. Let's zoom in here so you can kind of see what we have. So in the top, the main vehicles we're going to be bringing is going to be the EBR, the AMX M4, the Chieftain, the 260, the IS-7, the 279E, the 907, the 140, the STB, and the Minotauro. These are my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Good. It lines up. My 10 top vehicles for competitive play. I understand that the EBR is very difficult vehicle to play. The Chieftain you can only obtain through Clan Wars. The 260 is very difficult to get. You have to go through campaign missions. Same with the 279, arguably even harder. The 907 is a Clan Wars Roar tank, leaving you with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 10 vehicles you can feasibly get. However, in these 5 vehicles, you have a super fast heavy, you have a great TD, you've got a good gun depression, medium, you've got a good, and you've got a good solid medium. And as long as you pick up one of these other two, you'll see another video where I categorize all these tanks into their different components or their different subsections. You will have a very well-rounded lineup. So if you were to get 10 tanks easily obtainable, 1, the AMX M4, that would be my first choice. 2 would be the 140. 3 would be the IS-7. 4, the Minotauro. 5, the STB-1. 6 would probably be the CS. 7, the Mouse. 8, the E3. Let's see what else. EBR would be 9 if you're able to play that. And 10 I would maybe have as the version 4 or the 705A, one of those two 650 alphas. Or actually the S-Conk. S-Conk would be number 10. So you have a gun depression heavy as well. So I believe this video has gone on long enough. So thank you so much for watching. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'll leave this up on the screen a little bit if you want to screenshot it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.